30 seconds. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
From beautiful Saline in southeastern Michigan.
Around the world at sunskyMysteries.com.
This is the 2009 Top 10 Webcam in the World winner. This is SETV.
This message is transmitted at the request of the United States Office of Civil Defense. At 3:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, NORAD detected a long-range nuclear missile launch in North Korea. This missile is believed to be headed in the direction of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. It is believed that it will impact this area within the next 1.5 to 2 hours. All residents within a 400-mile radius of this area should seek a fallout shelter immediately.
The only real effect I can have is to create the impression that things aren't as bad as they are. To give our people time, the opportunity to survive.
I guess I just never realized I'd gone so far. We had lost so much control.
Totalitarianism doesn't need armies. It only needs to control a couple of things. The media and the ability to dispense privilege to some and withhold it from others. And of course, a weak and divided people helps.
Liberty is calling, the time has come.
There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, rins, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet.
Well, good evening, everybody. Bill Sam here. Hopefully, after the last show, the audio sounds a lot better. Now, I'll say this. There were a couple of comments on the YouTube channel about how the sound sounded horrible and that I should do some work on it. I will point out that we stream live at USSAMichigan.com, where the audio was splendiferous, I might add, and the show archives with the show notes appear immediately after the show on the same website. Let's take a look so that we can demonstrate that you don't have to be on YouTube to see the show. See, right here is the page. Right there. That is the page at USSA Michigan. The journey into the pit of truth and the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens. You can open up the chat while you're there and chat with me while I'm doing the show and ask questions, and you can also open up the show viewer to see the stream live. See, in a second, it's going to probably pop up with my wonderful face on it. There you are, right there. So, and you can see that we have that screen there, and now you can see the screens descending into infinity as I not only stream the show, but also watch the stream of the show while it's streaming USSAMichigan.com, 7 p.m. Eastern. Tonight, I've got something serious to talk about now that we've gotten that out of the way. The first thing tonight is something that will shake you to your core, right to the core of your being, and well it should. The portion of the country that is awake right now and paying attention to what is going on, and there are a lot of people that are paying attention and are awake. Now, this is as big of a story as Watergate, and trust me on that, please. You can take that to the bank. This story is absolutely beyond the pale. Excuse me while I clear my throat. President Obama has demonstrably failed in his most basic responsibility to keep Americans safe who are in harm's way. Now, this has been a major breaking story, if you haven't heard it already, all of the details that have come to light. CIA operators were denied in 3 separate requests to go help those under assault in Benghazi. Fox News, and a lot of you probably don't like Fox News. I very rarely watch news on television anymore, so if you don't like Fox News, that's fine. Fox News has learned from sources on the ground in Benghazi. 3 urgent requests came from the CIA annex in Benghazi for military backup during the attack there and the subsequent 7 hours later attack. There was another attack 7 hours later. They were denied by officials in the CIA chain of command. Each time they were told to stand down. Now, we knew when these people were appointed to these departments, the CIA and the Pentagon, the State Department and Homeland Security, that in fact they were at the very least unqualified and at most would do what they could to destroy those departments from within. Well, mission accomplished. And that should burn your ass on fire to get to the polls to vote. Former Navy SEALs Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty were part of a small team at the CIA annex, which is about a mile from the consulate, when it came under attack. When they heard the shooting, they called their higher-ups to tell them what they were hearing, and they were told to stand down. An hour later, when they called back again, they were again told to stand down. Now, these 2 Navy SEALs ignored these orders, and along with 2 others, went to help at the consulate, whose Marines, you will remember, had no ammunition for their firearms, which at that point was in fact on fire. In the end, there were 3 separate requests to go to the aid of the consulate, as well as requests for outside help from military assets that were in the area. Leon Pinhead, the head of the Pentagon, the defense secretary, was having a Q&A with a reporter. And a reporter said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Mr. Secretary, there was in fact a drone over the consulate, and there were Defense Department employees fighting inside the consulate. The question is, with those combined assets, why wasn't there a clear intelligence picture that would have given you what you needed to make some moves, like a couple of F-16s overflying the place to disperse the attack, or dropping some special forces in? Why didn't you do anything?" Now, listen to what this dimwit says.
We're prepared to respond to any contingency, and certainly have forces in place to do that. But there's a basic principle here. Basic principle is that you don't deploy forces into harm's way without knowing what's going on, without having some real-time information about what's taking place. And as a result of not having that kind of information, The commander who was on the ground or in that area, General Ham, General Dempsey, and I felt very strongly that we could not put forces at risk in that situation.
This is, in fact, completely unbelievable. We know the State Department was watching live video of this as it was happening. We had a drone overhead there. Where was Near Obama with his famous kill list for the drones at that point? Why was the live feed not being watched by the dimwit in the Pentagon and the commanders on the ground in the theater over there? We know the CIA station chief, less than a mile away from the attack, and the State Department both had sent cables, emails, and warnings to the White House Situation Room in the first 2 hours. We've learned that the White House knew what was going on at the very moment it was happening. We know that of the 4 Americans that were killed, 2 of them died in the final hour of what was a 7-hour assault. And just to make the point, this is, in fact, our ambassador after the attack as he was being dragged off. And 4 brave Americans died because of this. To not act in this situation, in my view, is something a lot worse than the Watergate break-in. They knew in real time that there was not a protest that was spontaneous, that just magically appeared because of a shit-ass YouTube video like they tried to shove down our throats. They knew the group that claimed the credit for the attack. The leader of the attack is all over the Middle East on television bragging about it. And these idiots that really are surrounding us are now saying there wasn't enough intel to act. Bull crap, there wasn't. What the hell are those drones for, and what is their purpose? This has to be the most sorry group of human beings and wastes of flesh to ever dress skeletons ever in the history of mankind. And now that I'm done with that, let's move on to some better news. As you probably know, last weekend I showed you some photographs of our deep cycle batteries. We did some routine maintenance on our deep cycle batteries, like equalizing them, adding fluid, and washing the cases and the connectors. Well, as it turns out, there is an excellent resource for those of you that wish to get into alternative energy, or actually are using alternative energy right now like I am, or are actually thinking about it. And one of the things that you need to do before you delve into alternative energy is you need to educate yourself, because it's a rather expensive endeavor. And if you don't do your research and do it correctly the first time, you're going to have to go back and start over, or you are going to be like the people that email me all the time. And believe me, at northernmichigansolar.com, my alternative energy website, I get emails all the time from people that have killed their deep cycle batteries. Well, there is a resource now for everybody. Trojan Battery has posted the first series of videos on its website focused on expanding battery knowledge of its Trojan Tips educational video line. The second set of videos in the series will be posted in 2013, the company said. The Trojan Tips videos are designed to provide in-depth information focusing on a variety of battery topics, as well as expand awareness and understanding deep cycle battery technology. And the person hosting it, Vicky Hall, says, Trojan developed the Trojan Tips video tutorials to educate the public on how to enhance the performance and longevity of deep cycle batteries that power a variety of electrical equipment. And if you want to see that article in full, you can go over to fleetowner.com, where this article resides. And they have a ton of additional information about the videos. For instance, the educational videos can be viewed at trojanbattery.com/Trojan Tips. The following titles are available right now. Deep Cycle Battery Technologies. Expand your deep cycle battery knowledge of various technologies available on the market today. Determining the health of a deep cycle battery. Learn the importance of measuring the state of charge. Battery maintenance to maximize performance in life. Expand your battery charging know-how. Learn important facts about battery charging as part of an effective battery maintenance programming, including the correct procedure. Equalization is a key to extending battery life and performance. And that is what we did last weekend. Not only did we clean our deep cycle batteries, but we also did a full equalization program on each one of the batteries. And that's some of the other some of the tips that they have at their website, including proper safety methods for handling deep cycle batteries, understanding battery capacity and life expectations. And when you go and purchase deep cycle batteries, and this is my own tip for you because I've done this for many years, you go out and you buy a battery and it says on it 220 amp hours. It's a deep cycle battery. It says right on there 220 amp hours. And you go and figure out, you get your inverter and your little 12-volt appliances, and you figure out that you're going to use 2 amps, okay? And you know it's a 220 amp hour battery. So you think to yourself, you know what? I can run that thing for 110 hours because I'm using 2 amps and it's a 220 amp hour battery. That is incorrect. Because if you do that, you are going to hear something that you don't want to hear. You're going to hear this. Because you're going to ruin your deep cycle battery in about a week. You see, a deep cycle battery, and I would say probably maybe a forklift battery, golf cart battery might be less prone to this particular problem than a regular deep cycle battery is. But the lower you take the state of charge, and that's what the 220 amp hours means, when it's fully charged and has the full charge on it. If you take it down to 50%, you're putting a stress on that battery. If you use all 220 amp hours out of that battery, you are ruining that battery. Because what happens is it develops crystals along the lead plates on the inside of the battery, and they have to be cleaned off. And frequently the way that you do that is through equalization. You never, ever want to take a deep cycle battery lower than 50% state of charge. So that 220 amp hour battery is 110 amp hours. So you're not going to be able to use the entire capacity. That is a newbie mistake. I have seen people do that over and over and over again. So get over to trojanbattery.com/Trojan Tips to watch the videos. In fact, I'm going to be watching those videos later on this week. Now, let's get on to our next story, which is from part of our parade of idiots. To vote for your neighbor is not fraud. See, now here we go. The socialist justification for election fraud. It's not fraud, it's just helping your neighbor out. To impersonate somebody else at the polls is voter fraud. To vote for the sake of someone other than yourself, just yourself, is to care about your neighbor. Although some voter suppression laws have been curtailed by court rulings, many remain in place. Let's go over and look at the actual article right here. This comes to us from the Huffington Post, and it's in the college section, and it's the blog, and it's by Norma Cook Everest, professor at the Wartburg Theological Seminary. And she says, some new strategies will be implemented election officials may make ongoing changes to early voting availability, including locations and hours. Putting out confusing information, if not outright misinformation, and scrutinizing details on voter IDs may cause havoc on Election Day. Your neighbor may not be able to vote. How do we vote? Not in the neighbor's place, but for the sake of the neighbor. Apparently, this genius of an idiot has never heard of an absentee ballot. Sure, let's all go out and vote for each other. That'll be so much fun. Sorry about the blank screen. I hit the wrong button on the sharing portion of the show. There is the article right there from the college section. The first story of the night still has me quite upset. So let's go on to the next story on the parade of idiots that apparently we have tonight. Homeland Security grid-tied solar platform is vulnerable to attack. The tide of idiots show virtually no sign of stopping at all. None. If you see something, say something. As of October 10th, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has issued an alert about multiple vulnerabilities in a supervisory control and data acquisition monitoring system for solar energy platforms. The department warns that unauthorized users may be able to access the system and execute malicious code. Two security consultants, Roberto Paleri and Ivan Spezzali, both of whom have worked for a Milan-based computer and network security company, Emaze, discovered and reported the problems related to the Synapse eSolar Light photovoltaic system monitor after contacting the vendor with no response. Apparently, this system has a default password, and you can see that I blanked out the password because this idiot actually showed it in the article, which I'm not going to show you. If you see something, say something. And yeah, I got something to say about that. You know what? Every home internet router, wireless router that you get, all come with a default password. Every single one of them. And you have to change that password. Otherwise, you'll be opened up to a security vulnerability. We've all heard stories about people that have gotten arrested for child porn downloads and things like that when it turned out that somebody was stealing their wireless signal. So one would assume that you can change the password in their system. In fact, I have an idea. Let's go over here and see if we can find, let me see here, I don't seem to have it at hand. Oh, actually, you know what? I do have it. It's right here. Let's go over to the Synapse website, the home of this particular product. And as you can see, the language is not in English. It's in a foreign language. Efficienza Electrogenia. However, up here in the corner, very, very conveniently, they seem to have two buttons, and one of them's for English. Let's click it and find out what happens. I'm clicking my mouse right now, and nothing is happening. So apparently the English side of their website is not working, which leads me to a question that I have. Looks like they're using some stock photographs there, and you can't bring up English on the website, so it sort of appears that these people aren't really up on their technology, which would lead me to question, why in the hell are people buying stuff from this company if they have that type of security risk? And why did it take this long to figure it out? Somebody want to, maybe hop on the phone to Italy or wherever the heck these people are and ask them? That's, I don't understand that. Why would anybody leave the stock password on any device? Why would you do that? You got a password on your computer, you got a password for every website you go to, you got a password on your damn internet router. Why wouldn't you change the password on your little grid tie system? This is something that I simply don't understand. Let's go on to our next story, which may prove to actually be a little bit happier. Nope. Sorry. Sinkhole unprecedented globally. Heed evacuation orders, geologist says. The Bayou Corn sinkhole is truly a historical event, unprecedented globally, according to a geologist who addressed a group of residents, evacuees, and others Tuesday night in Pierre Par at a briefing high with emotions at times, such as when the mandatory evacuation issue was addressed. Now, for those of you that don't know, Pierre Par, Bayou Corn, and Assumption Parish, down there in Louisiana, is the area where they shoot the show Swamp People. That's about alligator hunters. And I would suspect that this show is probably not going to have a new season, because if I'm not mistaken, Pierre Par is where they take the alligators for processing, and the processing plant purchases the alligators. Pierre Par is under a mandatory evacuation. Let's read on, shall we? Nobody ever dealt with something like this, said Heckox, technical advisor with Shaw Environmental Group, that has been contracted by the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources to help attempt to manage the monster sinkhole area, leaking gases and crude oil, and earthquakes plaguing nearby communities for over 4 months. Extra experts are being hired to try to find and implement a solution, Louisiana Department of Natural Resources Director Stephen Karutz told evacuees and other residents at the meeting. Probably there would be no more sinkholes forming. Instead, if anything, the existing sinkhole would just get bigger, according to Heckox. Even another official on Tuesday night, however, questioned that and tried to obtain more information. There is no cookbook, he stated matter-of-factly. There is not even any decent case studies of how to proceed when you've had a cavern collapse 5,000 feet below ground. You've had to frack out to the surface in the form of a sinkhole, and that's what it is, natural fracking. And you have natural gas and crude oil bubbling in and bubbling up all over. Now, there is one piece of great news in this story. Did you spot it? One official questioned the opinion that there wouldn't be any more sinkholes appearing. So this idiot is yammering on about how there is no cookbook, and it's never before been seen on planet Earth, and then he opines that there wouldn't be any more holes opening up. If it's never been seen before, if nobody has ever experienced this before, then how could you possibly know that no more sinkholes come up? And that story came to us from theexaminer.com, theexaminer.com. Coming to us, written by our friend Deborah Dupree, who has been writing the most excellent articles about the sinkhole. She is on this story like a second layer of skin. It's been amazing. Now, our, I believe, final story of the night comes to us from the amazing mind of George Urey, Urban Survival. He has his website, Urban Survival, and his address is urbansurvival.com. That's urbansurvival.com. And this is his little take on Hurricane Sandy. And you can see the article there, and we'll switch back to the show notes because it's easier to read. And he says this about Hurricane Sandy, which means to the north we will likely see a mess with snow and ice, and to the south flooding, and we're near high tide for the month. Gee, does this get any better? Sure it does. There are still trees with most of their leaves up in the impact area, so there will be huge problems with tree damage too. And to make it better, old George there got an email that espouses what I said, and I have witnesses. I said this back in 2008 about what would happen this year. I surely did. Here's the email. Not so fast, George. Your own link says the models show the storm turning into the northeast states and not going out to sea. Problem is that many of the factors present in the 1991 perfect storm are also showing up for this one, including the Canadian cold air that some professionals are saying will hook or capture Sandy and bring it ashore, making a hurricane nor'easter combo. If this happens and the winds hit the still foliated trees, there goes the power. And power could easily still be out on election day. Maybe this is what is indicated, and this person is an astrologer, by the way. Maybe this is what is indicated by the stopped Mercury indicating no or delayed election results. Astrology sometimes gives us the ultimate impact and not always the cause. Well, I didn't know the cause when I began espousing in 2008 that there may be some issues this year with certain events, if you will, that I'm not willing to talk about publicly. So anyway, that is the show for tonight. Hopefully, we have fixed our sound problem. I'm going to check immediately after we go off the air. And if the sound problem still exists on the stream or the recording, I will do the same thing I did on the last show. However, if you stayed here until this point, obviously you're interested enough to hear me repeat USSAMichigan.com, which is where we do the live stream and where the archives are. So don't be an idiot and complain about the quality of the video. Go to the site and listen to a clear version of it. And thus, my name is Bill Zam, and this has been Surrounded by Idiots. And remember, always, always wear a hat and your sunglasses when you go outside. It messes up the facial recognition software in the drones. Have a good night, and we will see you on our next show.